Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 232 of Album of the Day. And I'm finally back after a 2-week break. I haven't come out with a review in a couple of weekends because I've been a little busy. I'm about to graduate high school, and also I was, recently sick. So I'm finally back, a little more refreshed, ready to do another review. So for today's review, I'm going back to 2018 once again, and this is the new album from a singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist who I think maybe from New York, but she's like grown up, she's grown up on a variety of different types of music, including bluegrass and folk, and she's played that sort of music in the past, but lately she's been going it alone and doing some folk music that definitely is very genre bending and sort of incorporating more psychedelic or experimental elements, and with the traditional instrumentation of banjos and fiddles. Of course, I'm talking about the artist known as Odetta Hartman, who put out her debut solo record in 2015 called 222, and now I'm here to review her sophomore solo effort, released on August 10th, 2018, and the album is called Old Rockhounds Never Die. And I got this on vinyl for Christmas, and the label this is released on is called Memphis Industries and Northern Spy Records. And this album I included as my number 50 on my top 50 records of 2018. And I'd still say it actually stands by that spot pretty well, because while this may be kind of lower on my list than some other albums, it's still definitely a really cool and very fascinating freak folk record. Here's the front cover where, she's got a kind of, devilish look on her face, and she's kind of in this, cavern or something like that. There's 15 songs on this record, and it's over 33 minutes. Pretty short record, so a little fragmented, but still got some great songs on it. Here's side A, and then there's side B. This is just standard black vinyl. And the download code, even though there isn't a download card in here, there's still a download code to be seen on the vinyl sleeve, so you can be able to listen to this record in a more portable way. And that is the very simple vinyl packaging for Old Rockhounds Never Die, the new album by Odetta Hartman. I think this record definitely is a very interesting record. It's the kind of record I didn't really stumble upon until about late in September, but it was definitely one of the most memorable kind of musical experiences I was able to kind of first lay ears on in 2018. Because it definitely was one of the most unique. It's sort of a record that takes everything you know about folk music and kind of warps it, dirties it up a little bit, and kind of makes it a little more kind of contemporary and out there. The opening track is the title track, Old Rockhounds, and it's kind of an intro for this record. It's basically 47 minutes, 47 seconds featuring Odetta singing in a very kind of cool, sort of shaggy, yodely-like sort of voice. voice that's like very hauntingly beautiful, with some lyrics that sort of talk about how old rockhounds are kind of like these people, like these old souls that kind of, never pass away. They just slowly petrify and just sort of stay there in the stay there in the caverns all day, all day. Even the most straight ahead sort of, even the songs that may seem like kind of straight ahead sort of alternative country numbers, like Cowboy song, still have a little bit of a twist to them. Like the song Cowboy Song features the kind of peppy banjos over some kind of clinky railroad type percussion and a kind of buzzing bass synth line underneath all that. And it's really cool instrumental elements like the kind of wailing slide guitar solo is definitely very cool. Very cool. So even though it may be a song sort of about, even though the song may have some kind of traditional country song tropes like cowboys and rambling and stuff like that, it's still definitely very unique. And then we also have some very haunting yet gorgeous ballads like the song Widow's Peak, which is kind of like a little foreshadowing for a song later in the track listing. He's like sort of talking to her significant other, but yet she's sort of saying stuff like I know you're not coming home tonight and I'm praying for you and stuff like that, sort of showing that something's wrong apparently. And she does that over some very emotionally moving vocals and some really cool time signatures in the banjo. And then the song goes into that kind of spine-tingling fiddle interlude, which sounds very beautiful. And I heard that actually wasn't supposed to be on there. It was meant to be guitar or something, but she made a little mistake in the studio, but yet I think it's perfect that she kept it here, because it's kind of part of the beauty of this album. It's not afraid to have a few blemishes here and there, kind of showing how the juxtaposition of different sounds, really just works. It's kind of a trait that probably a lot of people may have made to describe Frank Ocean's Blonde album. Blonde album. And the closing field recordings at the end sound really interesting. It kind of sounds like it could be a bunch of people at a funeral, and they're like looking at a casket, and they're just kind of randomly talking and stuff like that. And yeah, another example of how these sort of mistakes are actually really beautiful about this record. The song Sweet Teeth is this ballad that has one of her best vocal performances, in my opinion. I mean, she is just really she's got really a kind of sour kick on this track that I really like, and it only adds to her kind of sinister lyrics. And this song also has some really interesting sort of elements to it that set it apart from other kind of alternative country songs. Like the percussion is actually I think a tuned wine glass or something like that that's making that xylophone type sound. And it's also kind of got elements of rock in there. Really it's kind of layers of guitars that are worked into the mix too, along with that kind of spooky outro. Da 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 da. I love that. The song Honey, while it's only a minute and a half long, but man does it leave an impact, especially with its winning lyric of "Lick me like honey off a spoon, I want to dissolve into you." Dissolve into you. Put over a kind of stripped back sort of spare sound of banjo, a little bit of bass synth in the background, as well as some kind of cool kind of pitch shifting vocal effects towards the end too. Effects as well. So meanwhile, we have the ocean, which is this kind of ballad that has a sort of natural feel to it. And it's got some really interesting time signatures with its banjo playing, as well as very tastefully, mixed in sounds of like waterfalls and all kinds of sounds that sort of relate to an ocean. Like I can hear embers crackling, and I think something that could be frogs chirping or something like that. Like that would fit in with her lyrics of needing to find the ocean in her, and my favorite lyric on here, which is, "You don't have to save me, 'cause I can swim," which features really cool, chilly vocoder effects. Coder effects. A really nice touch on there. Very nice touch on there. Then the outro of the song is really kind of like dreamy and gorgeous. Like the song kind of ends abruptly before it goes into that outro, but yet it definitely really works in my opinion. And then so we have a couple of interesting interludes going on here on this album. Some 30-second interludes that kind of stir the whole record together. We have a kind of dreamy psychedelic auto harp coda, and then later in the mix we have a very soothing and meditative sound of meditation bowls that would be used as kind of music when you were just trying to meditate, be in the moment, and just kind of take it all in. Which, as someone who actually does practice meditation, that interlude really kind of hit home for me. And actually it does make a kind of chilling transition into my favorite track, and by far the big sort of gem of this whole album, which is the song Misery. It's a very dark and spine-chilling murder ballad featuring a fantastic vocal performance, which, like I said, her vocal performance is very much kind of sour, like essentially kind of the musical equivalent of, some sort of really sour acid like lime or lemon juice or something like that. Lemon juice, and I've loved just it only adds some impact to her lyrics, which are kind of vague, but yet you can pretty much tell from the samples, the really killer samples of gunshot blasts, that this is definitely a song about death and specifically murder for sure. Essentially the climax of this whole album, and then once that kind of bouncier midsection kicks in, and it is just really good with her vocals when the guitars get almost kind of punky, and the drum machine, you can't even tell that that's not really real drums you're hearing, just a drum machine. It kind of reminds me of moments like at the end of the song Dive off of Beach House's new record, where it turned from like really dreamy and serene into very almost punky and strangely kick-ass. Yes, and I also really like the moment where she's just with very intense focus going down, 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 and she's like changing her pitch throughout, and it sounds really cool over those kind of hair-raising gunshot blasts. Some other interludes that I'd like to highlight are probably one of my favorite interludes on this record is the track Dettifoss, which features really beautiful violin stylings. It's the kind of thing that really requires you to pay attention, but you'll really see beauty in it for sure. Kind of like the similar serene quality to like being around a pond or something like that. And also the time signatures in which the violins are playing in is definitely very interesting and bound to leave a long-lasting impact on you. The one interlude in here that I wasn't quite as fascinated with was the track Smoke Break. To be completely honest, it just feels like a filler moment and doesn't add anything to the record. I mean, it sounds essentially like a really good idea that's just not really executed that well. I do want so there's a few other tracks that I definitely like to highlight. I really like the track "You You." It's definitely a really good. It's definitely a really good poppier moment on the album. Great melody to it, and some very simple but yet very impacting lyrics, like that chorus of "I want to run to the edge of the world with you. It's perfect for you." Fit for you. And also a song that, while it may seem structure-wise that kind of a straight-ahead rock song, it does still have some other interesting elements, like kind of whizzing synth effects, as well as, I don't really know what the percussion is made of, but it definitely sounds really cool in there. Cool on there. There's another pretty decent pop song in here. It's the song "Spit." Even though this is another one that I'm not really digging as much, because I do find that its abrupt fade out was like really unnecessary, and I wish it could have been turned from a good song to a great song if it had been making a little longer, and the fade out didn't occur so soon. Which, that is kind of actually a little bit of an issue that I have with this album, is sometimes, the songs end kind of abruptly, and other points, some of the songs, in my opinion, feel a little too short, I feel like one improvement that I would love to see her make on a future album is just make the songs a little bit longer. Pretty much, because sometimes the shortness of the songs work, and other times they kind of feel really unnecessary on a couple of those tracks I just mentioned that I'm not really digging as much. Though there are a couple more great moments that I definitely want to highlight for sure, which are the song "Carbon Copy," which is a ballad with really beautiful harmonies, and though like kind of criminally short, and the song does have 2 minutes of field recording at the end, it still definitely leaves an impression, with especially that ending with the beautiful harmonies and the great chorus. Along with those really kind of eerie vocal pitch shifting as well. And beautiful, and the way that the banjo and the drum machine syncopate with one another is definitely very nice too. And the field recordings at the end are even very interesting, featuring these sound effects of birds chirping, but what makes it even more impactful is what I can pretty much just imagine while hearing these sounds, which I can imagine some sort of like carbon copy or corpse of a dead person just sort of lying there underneath all this like sereneness, which could strangely be the protagonist of this album, because I think kind of the big twist at the end of Misery is not only has she murdered her significant other, but also she kind of, I think, shot herself too. And she's, this is kind of her experience of like, being in heaven as kind of a carbon copy. And then following that is the terrifying closing track, Still Alive, which is basically a slowed down version of the pitched down version of the opening track called Rockhounds. But just like, the fact that it sounds so much like a possessed person is definitely the kind of thing that, after that long pause at the end of Carbon Copy, feels a little sudden, like you don't see it coming. It's kind of like a jump scare almost. And yet it definitely works as kind of the end of the album, really showing that, this person is dead, but at the same time, he's also kind of still alive down in that dark cavern where all the old Rockhounds hang out. So yeah, overall, while this record does have its shortcomings and its blemishes, I definitely do recommend this album, and I do think this album, and this is the kind of record where, if you're kind of one of those people who maybe isn't really big into bluegrass or country and stuff like that, but you like music where the genres are kind of warped, or kind of warts a little bit, I think you're going to really like the material here on this album. I'm someone who really likes folk music, like traditional folk music, but I also love it when artists try to, give it a twist and kind of, sort of make it a little more modern, pretty much make it their own. So for Old Rockhounds Never Die, I'm going with a light 8 out of 10 for this new album by Odetta Hartman, and I'll see you for episode 233.